This is the thing. I like the fact that CJ, and CJ's a friend of the show, and is a really bright guy, all right? Totally different than some of the NBA stars and how he came from humble beginnings. He's from Ohio, went to college, small school, developed.
Lehigh.
Yeah, but, Stu, this is my biggest problem. And, you know, we say things about, and even there's some guys in the NFL currently and Hall of Famers that, you know, we might have some disagreements and might not see eye to eye. They might block me on Twitter. But I still believe deep down inside that there's a brotherhood that the public will never understand, and it's a brotherhood that the public should never be involved in. Now, to me, I hate to see two athletes, because there's a mutual understanding between the two of us and what we're going through, disrespecting each other, especially in public where CJ has you on the podcast. It's kind of you're helping me, I'm helping you. Kevin Durant needs some help with his image. CJ has a nice little podcast. So for me, the thing in the second time talking about this, man, that brotherhood that we have in professional sports and something that you have benefited from. We had Danny Green. We was getting ready to talk good or bad about Danny Green yesterday. You know what Stu did? I'm getting ready to call this brother because I know him. I got his number, and I'm getting ready to find out, or I know how we do it. Even if we can spin it to protect him a little bit because the brotherhood. That's the part. I don't think KD's got a lot of shortcomings, but, man, trying to bust on another NBA player about their lack of chances to win, that to me, that takes me back a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, and I can understand and I can see that you're really upset. I mean, I view this slightly different as two people sitting down in the brotherhood trash talking that got out of hand. But one thing you have to understand about KD, just my observation, is that, listen, he uses social media in the wrong way. It's a misguided way. He doesn't use it to promote his brand. He uses it to react and respond, which is the wrong tack to take. But as I listened to the audio, and we didn't have the whole tape there, what triggered him, and KD has a trigger. The trigger for KD is when you discuss his move from OKC to Golden State.
Yes.
That's his trigger. And after CJ mentioned that during the podcast, that's when KD changed and got defensive and started to attack him. So what you're seeing here, to me, is a lack of public maturity on KD's part because he hasn't yet gotten comfortable publicly in his skin and been able to live with his decisions. And that's a function of just public maturity, which he doesn't have. And listen, the one thing about, you know, NBA players, NFL players, NHL players, whoever, one of the beauties, I think, as a coach and general manager that you can look at players is to watch them grow and mature and the people that they become. And some people, they don't ever get it. Most of them do, and that's the beauty of what sports can teach you. You know, for me, Kevin hasn't quite grasped just how to become comfortable with his decisions and shown that kind of maturity, but I do think that he will.
Listen, I think you're spot on about Durant. I want to talk about the CJ McCollum perspective for a moment, because you're right that the trigger was them talking about KD going to Golden State, but what directly preceded the clip we played was Boogie going to Golden State. And CJ admitting, when I heard the news, I called him. Yes, and I was like, what happened?
Which also led us to believe that there was some conversation before free agency between CJ and
that they knew.
There's no question.
There's no question. And that they knew, and CJ says it in the clip, there was going to be a hang-up, which is the starting center for Portland is repped by the same agent as Boogie Cousins is, and typically one agent isn't going to cost one guy a job by getting another client a job, so there's a little conflict of interest there. They're trying to work through that. CJ was hoping they would work through that and he tries to clean it up later, because KD's like, oh, you don't like Nurk. Oh, you want Nurk out. That's use of Nurkic. He's like, no, we could add them both. Like, Boogie Cousins an upgrade. But what CJ was expressing there is the exact frustration I had on television the day after. And I'm obviously not competing for championships. I'm just a viewer. Which is, what if Boogie had gone to Portland? Oh, So that's an interesting team. Now, your biggest position of strength is, or one of your biggest positions of strengths is the Warriors' biggest position of weakness.
Yes.
You got 2 guards. Steph's going to have to guard one of them. Like, can we squint hard enough to say this 3 seed just got closer? We have now had, and KD's been at the forefront of the one decision and now is laughing about the other, a team that won 73 games, had won a title, was up 3-1 in the finals, that replaced Harrison Barnes with the second-best player in the world and Kevon Looney with the best offensive center in the world, and the general public reaction evidently is supposed to be, but it's great. It's like having an all-star team. And I sit here and feel, but it ain't. And I feel for CJ McCollum, not only because of his story, not only because we know him, but because how hopeless must it feel? You were the 3 seed out west. And what Kevin Durant's saying there, by the way, is right. You guys can't win a title this year.
But I think you can't hate on KD for that decision to go to Golden State. Okay? All he did was exercise his right as a free agent to move to another team that had the ability to sign him under the cap to a place where he took less money. Okay, we can't fault KD for that and continue to have that hangover. If you want to fault anybody, fault the system, which is a collective bargaining agreement, because that's what led KD to Golden State. But hear me out. So, I mean, that piece of it, you can't hate on.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think CJ is right. I can understand his frustration, and he's correct on that, but don't hold KD accountable for that piece of it.
He's allowed to do it. Here's why I do think I can fault him to a degree. LeBron's my favorite athlete ever. I'd have felt very differently about LeBron James if when he left Cleveland the first time, he went to Boston. Because you're trying to beat Boston. If KD thought we can't beat Golden State and Oklahoma City, which, by the way, would have been wrong about. They were up 3-1 on them, and they had them dead to rights, and they ended up blowing it. You can go anywhere, and I'm not going to question your competitive integrity, except for the place you went to.
I do believe we can all be right, because I didn't mind KD. I understand. He had that right. If you want to play with them, he had that right. But Nick is also right with the competitive balance. It was not good for basketball. But at some point, to make us all happy, KD's got to be able to live with his decision. I'm already living with his decision. I mean, and the rest of the fans are. 20% viewership. You told us yesterday in the NBA. So we're living with his decision. You need to be able to live with the decision that you made and be able to explain that to the public, if you're going to do public things.
Yeah, and it's an easy explanation. I mean, to me, KD strikes me as a guy that really has a growth mindset. All right, you look at his comments yesterday about LeBron making the move to L.A. and how pleased he was about it. KD is just writing his own new chapters each time, and the first one was to go from OKC to Golden State. Hey, let me play a what if. What if KD in his next chapter decides to go to L.A. as a free agent, you know, with LeBron?
Or goes to New York. He can go a lot of places, sure.
And to me, that mindset is fine for me. I don't begrudge him for that. I don't want to get stuck in something old school and say that players have to stay with the franchise they're with. And, you know,
well, you might not begrudge him for that, but it seems like he begrudges himself for it a little bit still.
I agree. And that's a maturity issue. It's not, you know, we can't fault him for that. He's still growing himself. That is not, you know, something we should hate him for.
Right, well,
he just needs to mature.
At some point, he's going to have to finish growing, because we feel like we talk about this all the time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.